My first time building a figurine. Filling and sanding and sanding and sanding and more sanding. Hours and hours of painting scratches and giving oil paints a try for the first time. This is What Could Go Wrong Models. Rogue One is the best Star Wars movie since the original trilogy, and I will fight anyone who disagrees. That being said, Andor is probably my favorite Star Wars content of any kind. I love this show, and when I saw K2SO show up in Season 2, I just had to build him. I was actually in the middle of a different build, but put it on pause so I could finish K2 a mere 8 months after the finale of the show. Obviously I didn't plan on it taking this long, but here's why. After I snipped all of the parts from the sprue, I realized that there were some really gnarly seam gaps in very noticeable places. Bandai is usually really good about hiding these, but K2's design just didn't make this feasible. For these areas, I used thin cement to join the pieces and fill the gap. I tried to overflow the cement a bit to ensure the gap was completely filled on the surface, hoping that I can just sand it down flush and call it a day. In total, there were seams on the head, torso, hips, and legs that all needed this treatment. On top of that, K2's skull had a molding line and some excess gate material to clean up, so I started my sanding journey there. I started with a 600 grit sandpaper to take down the raised surface, and then made my way up the finer grits to make sure that the dome stayed pretty smooth. These sanding sponges were also amazing to use, bent nicely to fit the curve and made sure I didn't press too hard. A godsend from God Hand. Perfect. Or so I thought. I went on to repeat this process on all of the glued joints. I've never sanded prominent visible parts of a model before and was anxious the whole time. The last thing I wanted was an uneven surface from sanding one spot too much. So I just took it slow and focused on letting the sandpaper do the work. Alright, things were looking pretty smooth. No flat spots, but definitely some joints that didn't get filled in enough. So I turned to Tamiya's plastic putty. I simply smeared it in the gaps as best I could, and once it cured, you guessed it, back to sanding. The putty sanded easily and I was really happy with the result. Just super smooth. And now I was ready for the real test. Primer. Even coat of monotone light gray will hide no shame. In 3, 2, 1, boom. Shame revealed. Okay, it isn't that bad, but it's pretty obvious that everything needed more filling and sanding. Now at this point, I learned that plastic dust is no joke. So I gave wet sanding a go, and 10 out of 10, will do it again. I went in with another round of putty filler, but was really struggling with it drying while being applied. So I mixed a little with some Tamiya lacquer thinner to give it a nice consistency that made it just so much easier to apply. I'd say this is the way to go for filling very thin gaps. I won't bore you with yet even more sanding, so here's strutting Chewbacca at Disneyland. And here's how things ended up. I really didn't know what to expect, but I was blown away when these legs looked like they were molded as a single piece. Not perfect, but I'll take it. I slapped on another coat of primer and finally called it a wrap on the bodywork. It had taken me 2 months to reach this point, and the finale of Andor had just aired. Well, nothing else to do but just keep swimming. For K2's base coat, the instructions called for black and cobalt blue, but I wasn't making a trip to the store. I started with flat blue and mixed in small amounts of rubber black until I got a shade I was happy with. Loaded up the airbrush and let her rip. Spraying went smooth for the most part. I was getting a little bit of splatter the whole time, but no amount of airbrush cleaning was fixing it. It didn't seem to affect the finish much, so I just carried on. Nothing special here, just aiming for even coverage since the primer is so much lighter than the base color. So, just sit back and let the painting take you. Now, for these shoulder parts, I ended up being a victim of my own hobby relaxation and let my mind go a little too much. I sprayed these a medium sea gray and intended to mask it off and spray the interior panels a darker gray. Not paying attention, I forgot the masking part. So the whole thing just got covered in gray. Time to take a break from spraying. I went back in with a brush this time and filled in the medium sea gray where it's supposed to be. Once that was done, it was time to do some actual masking. After studying some reference images of K2, I decided to skip the decals in favor of painting the accent colors. I grabbed my trusty Tamiya masking tape and got to work. I started by masking off the forearm patterns, using the panel lines to guide my knife blade. It's hard to tell from reference, but the pattern only goes halfway around on the left arm. Next, I masked the outline of this shape on the chest. Later, I'll mask and spray paint one edge at a time to create the whole shape. Then spent a long while thinking whether I should reconsider doing this hobby, as I took 2 years off my good eyesight to mask these little areas for the gray accents. Is anyone other than me going to notice this detail? Nope. Is it worth it? Absolutely. For the metallic trim on the leg, I carefully wrapped thin strips of tape on either side, and then masked off these little notches one by one. Finally, after struggling with how I would do the neck trim, I decided to cut my own vinyl mask. I measured twice and cut 8 times before I got what I thought looked right. I lined it up using advanced techniques.
Mark 1 eyeball, sir.
And made a pact with the devil that it would work. I went with Vallejo's pale burnt metal color here and just said to myself, what could go wrong? Hit full send on the spraying, and it turned out way better than I expected. A little bit of paint bleed, but I can absolutely manage that. Carrying my confidence high, I went on to airbrush the remaining accent colors. It's always so satisfying airbrushing over a mask. It's like chaos but order at the same time. Nothing quite compares. Except the peeling.
I should have said the poet.
The last spray painting I had to do was for the only pop of color on K2's shoulders. I again eyeballed a mix of orange and yellow to give him his signature look. With the base coats done, I moved on to hand painting. K2 has a lot of bare metallic pieces, and the Vallejo metallics brush very nicely. Though, the paint and medium start to separate quickly while it sits in the pot, so I have to swish it just about every time I load the brush up. And that gets annoying fast. I am all ears for any tips on how to avoid this for the next time. Once I got all the pale burnt metal on, I switched to the steel metal color and filled in the finger joints. The darker metal just made the material feel stronger. You know, for punching stuff. Finally, I painted in the miscellaneous colors that would have been decals on K2's back. Then, sealed it all in with a clear coat. There was one decal I just wasn't going to try and paint myself. The Imperial insignia was going on the shoulder plates. Nothing special here, just some microset and microsol. And a little bit of patience. Once that was done, I moved on to panel lining and pin washing. I took some cheap oil paint and thinned it way down with white spirit. I used a thin liner brush and dabbed the wash and panel lines and recesses, letting the capillary action go to work. The black color doesn't show up super great against the dark blue, but it's fine. And it worked well for the metallic joints, so I'll just keep going. cleaned up the excess wash with a dry cotton swab and towel, then took one more look at a fresh K2 off the factory floor before I really had some fun painting. Moving on to chipping and edgeware, I went with the Vallejo dull aluminum metal. It has less reflection in it compared to the other metal color I used, and in my head that made sense for wear marks. Did it work? Let me know what you think. In proper what could go wrong models fashion, I started with the bottom of the model. For two reasons. One, screw-ups will be less noticeable there, and two, if any part of K2 had the most paint wear, it would be on his feet. Starting on the feet allowed me to spend some time remembering the techniques needed and get the feel back. From motion of the brush, amount of pressure to use, how much paint to load, all of that. Had to get the rust off. And boy, was there some rust. Oof, not my finest work in some areas. But that's part of the journey. Pack it, learn from it, move on. Above the knees, I went back to reference images to see how scratches were portrayed and emulated some of it as best I could. I struggle with trying to place the marks randomly, but without them being too evenly spaced out, so replicating the folks at ILM comes in handy. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, after all. Outside of just blatantly copying what's seen on screen, I just tried to add the wear marks to keep things visually interesting. Panel edges and corners got extra attention to help those stand out. If in doubt, add wear to panel corners. That can always be justified as panels being pried off to conduct maintenance. Now, if that seemed like a lot of work, let me introduce you to the hands and arms. Weathering is supposed to tell a story, and this is a story about a robot that melees everything it sees. I wanted to have a noticeably large amount of scratches and wear in these areas, but also not look like a complete mess. I focused on directional scratches for his knuckles and forearms to help sell the idea of using human bodies as punching bags, and just general wear on every surface. Each arm was probably about 4 to 6 hours of work, but it was really satisfying to see the details come together. And if you've never seen the show or movie, I'd think you'd be able to tell he's no 3PO. For the rest of K2's body, I just went around doing random edgeware, chipping, and impact marks using different brush methods. Dry brushing is great on sharp edges for a worn down look, and stippling works well for chip marks. I used a small brush for two reasons. One, for fine detail, obviously, and two, because I don't want a large belly holding a lot of paint that I could accidentally flow on the model. Having a drier brush helps me better control how much paint I put down. Once I got to K2's head, I was pretty comfortable with my techniques and continued on with my method. Start small because I can always build up from there, and mix in interesting or unique details supported with smaller random spots. And with those last touches, the main painting was complete. It was time to get dirty. I recently got my hands on some oil paint colors and was ready to give them a try. Having really no clue how to start, I just threw some on the backside of a leg and worked away at it with some thinner. I quickly realized this wasn't working the way I wanted it to, and I needed to approach it more like a wash. So I thinned it way down with white spirit and just gave it a go to see how it panned out. Slap it on, let it sit for a minute, then dab it dry with a paper towel. Okay, that worked. To avoid having a too even coat of dirt, I created some very dirty patches and avoided wiping any off while wet. When it dried, I used a sponge makeup applicator to soften hard edges and blend the tone into the clean areas. I really liked how this effect turned out, as it provided some extra visual interest and avoided being too uniform. From here, I went on to apply the wash in a somewhat strategic manner, thinking about where dirt would collect, but also implies some of it got on him in a dynamic fashion, i.e., while kicking ass. I want to make sure that the model doesn't suggest that K2 sits around all day just collecting a layer of dust. As for the technique, it really boiled down to this formula. Apply the paint, let it dry to the point where it doesn't look wet, and blend the edges. If there's a hard edge, I'll go in with a damp brush and feather it until it looks smooth. Otherwise, I'll continue to use the sponge to blend it in. How much blending is really just a taste, and working with what the model gives me. The other brilliant part about using oils on acrylic is, mess up? Just erase it. Perfect for a modeler like me. I moved on to the torso, keeping the dirt effect to the outside of the body panels, following edge lines and contours. I hope to keep it looking natural and not create anything too distracting. I did, however, want to replicate the streaking below his neck, so I used a wet brush to pull down some raw oil paint I stippled on. Very, very lightly, just pulling the brush down, barely making contact. Doing these several times until it was almost completely, I fucked it up. Oh well. It's there, just not streaking from the bottom of the curve. The final effect is adding some splatter by flicking wet oil paint on in random places. Probably the most bang for the buck in terms of effect for effort. Super easy, super fast, nice subtle detail. The very last step for me was to handle K2's eyes. On screen, K2 has illuminated pupils, but I wasn't going to go that far this time. I decided to go with reflective pupils instead, so I brushed some metallic color onto the inside of the clear eyes. That should give it some life at the right angles. And all that's left is to see what it looks like. This build was a journey to say the least. I actually forgot half the stuff I did until I went back and watched the footage. But the time spent was worth it. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you liked the video, throw it a thumbs up. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.